Welcome to Charged Up Studio Live, where small business owners get charged up for success. Are you a small business owner? Do you find yourself struggling through the many responsibilities that come with the title entrepreneur? Well, we're here for you. Charged Up Studio is hosted by Market Atomy LLC, your prescription for what we call OPA. What is OPA? It's when you become so overwhelmed with the confusion that comes with business ownership that you become paralyzed and ultimately avoid doing anything in hopes it will take care of itself, or you put it off till later. Does that sound familiar? I'm your host, Dan Olivo, and each week we bring a business professional eager to charge you up as they talk about the many things that keep you from moving forward with your small business. So are you ready to get charged up for success? Let's hit it. So welcome back to Charged Up Studio, where we navigate the highs and lows of the business world with the brightest minds in the field. As artificial intelligence continues to evolve and becomes more integrated into various industries, it brings new challenges and considerations in the realm of trademark and copyright protection. AI's ability to generate content from written works or artistic creations raises questions about who holds the intellectual property rights to AI-generated works. Traditionally, copyright law protects the original works of human authors, but the role of AI blurs these boundaries. Similarly, trademarks typically used to protect brand identities face new complexities in the AI-driven market. The shared nature of AI models, along with often built on collective data and contributions, complicates the assignment of ownership rights. This evolving landscape necessitates a re-examination of existing legal frameworks when it comes to and keeping pace with technological advancements and adequately addresses issues of authorship, ownership, and protection in the age of AI. So today, we're closing out our monthly focus on charting your business's path to success. I'm Dana Olivo, our host, and our guest this week is going to talk about how to protect your assets in a time where AI has opened up accessibility to our intellectual property. Karin Koger is the principal and founder of Koger Law Firm, specializing in trademark and copyright law. She is a passionate and versatile name, image, and likeness, I had to look this up, NIL strategist and trademark attorney who helps student athletes pursue NIL deals and educate students and universities on the emerging NIL landscape. She is also the founder of NIL Prime Management, a premier management company for college and professional athletes, where she leverages her athlete marketing essentials, NIL certification, to negotiate, locate, and manage NIL and influencer contracts for her clients. Woo! So let's give a heartfelt Charged Up Studio welcome to attorney Karin Koger. Welcome, Karin.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm so glad you're here. And this is such a viable subject matter that needs to be expressed or explained moving into 2024, especially with the introduction of AI. And I will tell you, I use ChatGPT 20, 30 times a day. And not because I use the information and put it out there, but because it gives me ideas on writing my own content, and things like that. But yeah, it's important to understand this because what I write, I have to remember, is also going out to everybody else out there.
That's correct.
So before we get started, I always kick off our podcast sessions with one question designed to give our audience a little insight into who you are. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. If you could go back in time and give your young self some solid advice, what advice would you give her and at what age?
I would give my young self advice at 19, which would be to follow your dreams and the money will come.
That's basically what everybody needs to understand. You follow your dreams, the monetization of those dreams ultimately will become clear to you.
Absolutely.
So can you give to begin with, can you provide an overview of the key challenges that arise in protecting intellectual property in today's age with AI?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the challenges of protecting intellectual property, period. I would say the biggest challenge is people not recognizing what they have to protect. A lot of times when I speak with people and I ask them why have they not, trademark the assets of their business or file copyrights, they say, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to trademark. I don't know what I'm supposed to copyright. I don't know the difference. And because of that confusion, a lot of times people tend to put those things on the back burner, which is opposite of what they should be doing. They should be protecting intellectual property rights from the very beginning of your business. And once you start putting out your intellectual property into the world. So I would say that is the biggest challenge overall. Now, with the advent of AI, the question is also, what can I copyright and what can I trademark? And so if you get over the first hurdle, knowing, okay, I should, trademark my logo, I should trademark my slogan, the name of my business, copyright is something different. Then when I introduce AI, what can be protected? And so for those of us who've been working in the AI world, we know that a lot of AI pulls from whatever is out there already. So it may be somebody else's pictures or images that make that people own the copyrights to them, even if they don't file them at the Copyright Office, which is an extra level of protection. But as soon as you create an image, there is a copyright owner for that. So if AI is going out on the internet and pulling from other people's images or pulling from other people's publications, you may be infringing upon somebody else's copyright or trademark work.
Interesting, interesting. So, with that in mind, okay, when we talk about trademark and copyright, and we're moving more into an educational webinar virtual environment, okay, how do we protect our intellectual property as far as that is concerned? Is it a copyright infringement? How do we protect our new products that are now being put out there virtually?
Okay, so I will start with copyright, mainly because it's slightly easier, only because the process to obtain copyright registration is shorter. So typically, right now, if you file for copyright registration, it's taking about 4 to 6 months in order to receive your registration certificate. And when it comes to trademarks, it's taking about 12 to 18 months. So just to make it plain for your listeners, I say you trademark your business and your brand, you copyright your content. So trademark, business, brand, copyright, content. So the name of your podcast is something that you would trademark. If you have a logo for your podcast, that's something for your trademark. The actual podcast episodes or the transcripts that go along with your podcast episodes, those are the assets that you're going to copyright.
So I have to copyright every one of my episodes and things like that?
Yes, you should.
You should, but I mean, the fact that I can show a line of or a history of development and things like that, does that protect me at all?
It does protect you because, again,
Okay.
as soon as you create it, you are the copyright owner. The
Okay.
copyright registration gives you an extra level of protection. So if somebody does infringe upon you, or if somebody does take, the content, every word that you mentioned in your podcast, and they put it on their podcast, and you see it on Facebook or one of the other social media sites, and you go to file what's called a takedown notice, the first thing that these websites are going to ask you are, do you hold, the copyright registration for this? So even though you are the copyright owner, that registering it gives you that extra level of protection. It enables you to pursue them legally and in court and be able to recover damages.
And that becomes another problem in itself, because now with the virtual environment, podcasting, and things like that, you've got so much content being generated on a regular basis. It can get expensive and time consuming to do this every single thing. Tell us,
Correct.
yeah, tell us is there any other way that we can protect ourselves, without having to, do every single thing that we do. This is,
So
yeah.
I will say that there are some nuances in the copyright law. So instead of thinking I have to copyright every single thing, this is where you will consult with attorneys. For instance, as of, I think it was 2001, the Copyright Office put out an application for short works. So for instance, for blog posts. So if you were to copyright your blog post, you can copyright up to 10 blog posts at a time. So you don't necessarily have to copyright every single one of them. So are your podcast episodes, are they being posted as audio visual episodes? Are they being posted as blog posts? And that is a certain nuance that you would work with an attorney to help figure out, to see if there are different ways that you can register.
It opens up a whole different can of worms, when you start thinking about that, because, personally, my podcasts, my blogs, everything that I do, all of my content is pushed out via social media. It's all
Mhm.
directed back to my website or
Right.
to the podcast website and things like that. But, who's to say that somebody's not going to just pick it up and use it? So you have to be monitoring that as well.
Yes. Absolutely. You have to monitor. And in fact, especially if it's a trademark at the trademark office, you have a duty. You have a duty to monitor your stuff. And there are sites and services that you can subscribe to that will conduct the monitoring for you. If you want to do it yourself, again, you can, contact an attorney's office like mine. We do internal monitoring for our clients. So it will go out and scrape the internet. So if I, perhaps, monitor the title of your podcast. If somebody else is using that title and it's out there on the internet, our services will scrape it and notify us. And you have a duty to protect yourself and protect your
Yes.
assets, and reach out to them and send a cease and desist. Otherwise, you could lose your trademark or your copyright if you do not continue to monitor and protect.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, when it comes to trademarks, yes, my brand, my the Market Atomy concept, which is the story, the vision behind Market Atomy, everything, all of that I have trademarked. Okay.
Wonderful.
I I huh?
I said wonderful.
Yeah. But when it comes to all of my content, all right, I'm not saying that I have copyrighted everything,
Right.
okay, because I was under the understanding that if I can show a history where I have developed it, and things like that, that was enough protection. But what you're saying is that's not necessarily the case. So,
It's not.
and right now, so many business owners are getting into the podcasting aspect, and we put out blogs on a regular basis, and things like that. So it's interesting to find out that we're not necessarily protected that way, from someone taking our intellectual property. you know.
That's correct. And that's
So,
why, I do stress, working with an attorney. And one of the services that my office offers is what's called an IP audit. So with that, we sit down with a business owner like you who does have a lot of assets. So again, we sit down and we go over everything that you have.
right.
What do you have? What is contained within your business? And then we make a plan and a strategy. What is important to file and register first? Again, there are different time elements, there are different cost elements. So we will figure out, a strategy for you going forward.
No, it's very, it's a lot to take in this time, this day and age with what we're doing, the content development, and things like that. So, what are some specific examples of intellectual property issues that have emerged due to AIs?
Sure. I would say, I'll start with Canva. So most people in the creative world are very familiar with Canva. If you use Canva, they provide images that you can use. If you are on Canva Premium, there are also more images that you can use. So one of the things that you cannot do is you cannot take an image that you got from Canva, claim it to be your own, and file it as a trademark. However, what you can do and what is allowed in Canva's licensing, and it's in their terms and conditions, are you can take those images and elements and you can change them and add to them and alter them and then make them your own. And that is something that you can trademark. So with Canva now, they also have an AI component. So you can come into Canva and write a prompt and say what type of image you would like to create. The same thing if you're creating an image on Midjourney or using DALL-E via ChatGPT, you can go in and you can write a prompt and say what you want to create. But is it possible to actually trademark that image if they are pulling, again, from other work that can be protected?
Well, then,
So,
yeah, then that opens up the question because I purchase subscriptions to different image libraries,
right.
okay? And the images that I might pull from them have the description, that you have to put in their property rights,
Mhm.
that type deal. And I do include that. But when I go and trademark or copyright my content that might include that image, and it has that, am I safe there?
It depends on what that license provides for. So some of the licenses, a lot of people use Creative Commons licenses. If you're in that world, you might be familiar with them. So, most people are familiar with an all-exclusive license, which means, the person that created this, they own it. They do not give you the right to use it. If you want to use it, you need to reach out to them. Or there may be another license that says, yes, you can use this as long as you give attribution. Or there may be another
That's what
license
we're
that
talking about.
says,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that's what
Yes.
you were discussing.
Yes.
Or another
Exactly.
license that may say, you can use it and you can alter it. So when you are working with those images that you purchase or that you get from somebody else, you do want to pay attention to what that license says. So a good example of this is Etsy. A lot of people purchase images from Etsy. And when you purchase your images for Etsy, you have to go on the right-hand side, scroll all the way down and look and see what the license says, because oftentimes the licenses on Etsy might be for personal use, but you cannot use them commercially. So if you're going to take an image of a rainbow that you got on Etsy, you want to put it on a shirt for you, that's fine. But if you want to put it on a shirt and sell it to the public, that is not okay
Right.
based upon that license.
Right.
But the owner of that Etsy store might say, for an additional fee, you can purchase the commercial license and then you can go ahead and sell this. Or you can take this image and now alter it and make it into your own. So it's a lot of fine print that people have
Yeah.
to read. And just think, every day we all go on different websites. They ask you to accept cookies, or they have the terms and conditions that nobody reads. You just scroll to the bottom, click the button, say okay, and you don't know what you're saying okay to.
Yes.
So
No, I have run into some of the images that I have, attempted to use. And if it says that it can't be used for commercial, It can't be used for commercial in sales. Okay,
Correct, right, right.
basically, you can't make money from this image. But if you use it on, say a marketing brochure or just promotion or something to that effect, you're okay. So you have to read those, So with all of these changes that are going on with AI and intellectual property and everything, what legal frameworks or regulations are currently in place? And what do you see coming down the road that we should be, paying attention to?
So right now, there are very few legal frameworks that are in place. The Copyright Office has, stated you cannot just copyright just straight up AI. Again, if you use ChatGPT the way you described it at the beginning, you go in there, you get an idea, and you make that idea into your own. That's different. But if you are just straight, creating an article using ChatGPT, popping it up on your website, what you should do and what you should ethically do is let somebody know this has been powered by AI or powered by OpenAI or where you got it from. But that might not be an article that you can copyright. But if, like I said, you generate an idea, a lot of people use ChatGPT to come up with outlines. You have an idea for a blog.
Exactly.
Right, you put your outline in there, they spit out an outline, which helps you organize your thoughts. And then if you take that and make it your own, then that you can copyright.
I
So
mean, even with my book, I'll put in, my thoughts and I'll say, okay, I need content developed around these thoughts,
right,
and things like that. And it will do that. And then I run it through my editor, or something like that. And I say, okay, yes, I did use Chat GPT, to help generate the verbiage, the content and everything, but it was my thoughts, and they will run it through their plagiarism, you know,
right,
uh, you know, platform or whatever, and tell me how close it is and whether I've made enough changes in it to, that type deal.
right.
But in today's world, business world, um, the AI brings a lot of benefits in the sense of streamlining production and
Yes.
being able to do what we need to do quicker, and things like that. But as we're saying here on this podcast is we have to be careful. Don't use it as your own material.
Right,
You need to turn around. You need to, really pay attention to what you're putting out there.
right.
So we talked a little bit about how companies and individuals go about protecting their AI generated innovations, et cetera. Are there any notable cases or trends that you have seen that are occurring right now, as far as this is concerned?
I'm sure they are, but I do not have any off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I was not prepared for that one.
No, no, that's understandable. I can tell you that I have been doing a lot of work, research work and everything on the AI side, primarily on not necessarily Chat GPT, but on your CRM programs, your databases. All of this is all critical because we're using these platforms to streamline our businesses.
Correct.
And by doing that, are we opening ourselves up to being in violation of any of these laws?
Well, it depends on how you're using them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using ChatGPT to come up with your process, but are you taking your process to a level that you're saying that it's proprietary and that it's something that does need to be registered with the Copyright Office? Or is it something that's generic? If you have a process that you use AI to help you come up with, but you make it exclusive to you and exclusive to your business, that is something that you could probably copyright down the road. But you cannot copyright ideas. So a lot of times, we're using AI to come up with ideas. So you cannot copyright the idea. But once you put it into a form or put it into a document and a medium and you make it for you and you individual realize it, there's something different. The problem that we're going to have with the laws in AI is something that's existed for a long time, which is the law moves very slowly and AI is changing daily. So if the Copyright Office and the USPTO office make rulings about AI and what can be registered or not today, something might change in 6 months. So
Right.
they're really trying, I mean, they are working diligently on this. They're holding hearings. They're trying to learn as much as possible to figure out how to tackle this in the future. And one thing I just wanted to let your listeners know, you mentioned that when you produce your work and you send it to your editor and they run it through plagiarism sites, you can do that too. So I use a site that's called CopySpace, and I have no affiliation. I don't make any money off of this promotion, but I've been using this for 10 years, just because, I never wanted to plagiarize anybody. But if I have something and I am curious, as to could I be infringing upon somebody else's rights, they have a free site and I pay for the paid site. I think it's literally like 3 cents per 10,000 words,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
put it in there to see whether I am infringing upon somebody, because a lot of the stuff that I talk about, the laws, what can you trademark? What are the different trademark classes? These things aren't necessary, they come from the Trademark Office website. These aren't things that are proprietary that,
Right.
I can copyright, but did using AI, did it pull it from somebody else's proprietary information? And so I just want to check on that. So I would
Right.
encourage your listeners and watchers to do the same.
And I love the way that you talked about your ideas cannot be, copyrighted, because I work with a lot of what we call ideologists.
Hmm.
Okay. And they claim, this is my idea. And I keep telling them it's not your idea until you put it in
Hmm.
effect, until you start putting it on paper, start developing something around it, and things like that. It's just an idea. It's out there in the wind.
Hmm. That's
When I work with my clients, I tell them there's 5 phases to growing and scaling a business. The idea is the first phase, but then you have to prove it,
correct. Hmm.
then you build it, then you fund it, and then you grow it. But until that idea becomes a solid product or service or
Right.
business,
Right.
it's still just something that's out in the wind and it is not owned.
Correct.
So many of them will come, I wish I came up with that idea, or I did come up with that idea. That's my idea. And I know it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
So, it's important for our audience to understand that, you can have some great ideas, but until you actually act upon it, you know.
Right.
Yes. So, what challenges do you face when it comes to litigating and defending intellectual property cases involving AI?
So I'm going to be honest with you. I have not litigated an intellectual property case involving
It's
AI
still
because.
fairly new. Yeah,
Right, exactly. So, although AI has been around for years, AI, the way we know it and the way we talk about it right now, has been around for just a little bit over a year. When you talk about the advent of ChatGPT and Claude and Bard, the ones that most of us are using on a regular basis. So these matters have not hit the courts yet.
right, right. No, that's exactly it. And when you think about it, it's like uh no, the thought completely went out of my mind what I was going to just say. It was we were talking about what you face. I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, but what challenges, I would face defending these type of cases.
Yes,
And
yes,
I think
exactly.
also, I think one of the things that I would think of, and it's not necessarily just AI, but information gathering for my client. So for instance, if I ask my client, where did you get this trademark from? Or where did you get this logo from? Oh, well, I hired somebody, off of Fiverr or Upwork or whatever to make it for me. Okay, well, did you also get a copyright transfer agreement
Right,
signed?
right.
A lot of times we use these services, these freelance services, and it is in their terms of condition that this is a work for hire. But I always encourage people to take the extra step, have the person making it for you sign a work for hire agreement, and also ask them where they got those images from. So I ran into this with a graphic artist that I used to work with years ago. And I would, what I found is that he would just go on Google, and take images off of Google and give them to me, and again, I'm in this world. So, I'm familiar with this. And I'm like, you can just go and do a reverse Google search and here's the image. Like, you did not make this. This was not,
Right.
this was not original. So now you're passing it off to me. So again, a lot of people are hiring these other, graphic artists to produce this for you. You don't know that the image itself is not original.
Right.
You think you're
Right.
you're purchasing original work.
Well, let's take this conversation internationally now.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
Especially with the virtual environment, and it's so easy to cross country boundaries, and things like that. Let's talk about international agreements and treaties in governing intellectual property.
Okay.
Can you talk to that?
Actually, I'm going to pass on that one because I do, even though I know general treaties, and I stick with US intellectual property for the moment.
Okay. It's my understanding that when you're talking about international, you've got a difference between a US patent and an international patent, or something like that. And you have to have both of them if you're going to be dealing internationally.
Yes, if you are dealing internationally. So
Okay.
for clients that I have or potential clients that I have, such as those, and like for instance, if you're working in the e-commerce world, at the where my firm is at the time, I would refer that to another attorney who focuses more on international because I don't want to hold myself out there as if I'm an expert on this area and I'm not.
Yes, no, and I understand. Me as a strategist, I know just enough to be dangerous. Let's put it that way. Okay. And I do indicate to them, we do need to reach out. But as a strategist, I am building into their overall strategy. Okay, now we need to be looking at your IP. We need to be looking at your trademarks. We need to be looking at all of this.
Mhm.
And as a result, there's a cost involved, and you need to prepare for that cost.
Right.
So that's part of my job as a strategist to guide them along those pathways.
And
Um,
I appreciate you preparing them such as that because again, as I said at the top of the podcast, a lot of people put IP on the back burner or, because they either don't understand it or they're scared of the cost. And what they don't realize is if you do not confront IP at the very beginning, not doing so can cost you way more,
yeah.
if you inadvertently infringe upon somebody else's, trademarks or copyrights and they sue you, you could be caught up in litigation for months and years. It can cost you attorney's fees. It can cost you in damages if, the court finds against you. So it's better and it's strategic to deal with it up front at the beginning instead of playing on the defense.
And the other thing to point out is I have been hit with twice in my 10 years, I guess, or whatever, with a cease and desist order. Okay.
Mhm.
One was on the name of a group that I had, and I had basically it was the Orlando Economic Development Group.
Okay.
We have the Orlando Economic Development Council here.
Okay.
And the council was trying to say, no, you need to, cease and desist on this. And I spoke with my attorney and they said, no, these are common names. These are not something that they can trademark themselves.
Mhm. Right.
So Orlando Economic Development is a common name and can be used. The fact that I put group on the end, is what saved me
Mhm.
as far as that's concerned. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to point out is the fact that when you get notification from somebody as far as images, they'll send look like it's a legal email or whatever and saying, this image, make a point of checking on where it's coming from because there are a
Absolutely.
lot of companies. Let's talk about this. Okay, there's
Yes.
a lot of companies out there that will put these emails out saying that you're using these images illegally, trying to collect fees, and things like that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It happens all the time. It's very rampant. So I'll start with the trademark. So when you file a trademark application, it's public, it's open to the public. So there are companies, some that are very well known, they'll go look at, look at the trademark applications and shoot off a letter, or an email stating, you have this coming up. You need to pay $1,000 some. So thankfully, I do advise my clients about this and, tell them if they get anything like this, check with me first.
Right.
Like people will do this with images also. So if you are on receipt of any of these letters or emails, you do want to check on the legitimacy. Obviously, the first line of defense is, Googling, that company. Some of them, like I said, are very well known. So it will show up that they are frauds. And if you have questions, you do want to contact counsel.
Yeah, yeah. And I do respond with this fact that no, this is a purchased image, and I show them the licensing,
Mhm.
statement, and everything. And usually that will get rid of them, but there are some that will say, no, this is not the
Mhm.
case. And those are the ones that are generally just after making the quick buck. And
Yeah.
this is the time of year that it is so rampant.
Yes.
Everything like that is so rampant. So um, are there emerging technologies or strategies that we can utilize to help improve the enforcement of intellectual property? Is there anything that you can recommend to us?
I would say yes. Again, I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for this question
Yeah.
off the top of my head. There are definitely reputation management firms and IP. Like I said, IP monitoring firms are the best line of defense. The way you work with them is you tell them what IP you are monitoring. So, for instance, for me, I'm in a sorority, and there's a lot of sorority paraphernalia all over the internet. Again, Amazon and Etsy, and a lot of them have great monitoring services. So when it does pop up, they do get a notification. And so when you have a monitoring service like that, I'm not going to say it takes the onus off of you, but you have another level of defense because you don't have time to,
Yeah.
scour Etsy all day, every day to see if somebody's, using your images.
Yeah. How about a resource that will kind of give us a heads up on something that is evolving in the IP trademark landscape, a newsletter or something that we could sign up to as a small business owner to get heads up when we need to be paying attention.
What I will do is follow up with you because I'm actually in the process of making a document such as that.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the public. So I will definitely get that out to you because again, there's so many resources, so which ones are reputable? And so I'm in the process of working on that and I will get that back to you.
Okay, yes, no, this will be airing the end of January. So if
Okay.
you can get me a link,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, we'll make a point of putting that into the transcripts.
Okay, great.
Concerned. Okay. So
Yeah.
we're coming up on the end of another episode of Charged Up Studio. And thank you, Karin, for joining us today and shedding light on the importance of protecting our assets with the introduction of AI as it relates to the growth of our business. How can our audience members find out more about you and your services, et cetera? Where can they reach you?
Absolutely. They can reach me online at cogerlawfirm.com. So that's COGER lawfirm.com. If they would like to book a call, a free discovery call with me, they can book at go.cogerlawfirm.com. And we can also be found on social media such as Facebook and Instagram under Coger Law Firm. And I can be found under Karin Coger ESQ.
Very good, very good. And all of this will be included in the transcripts for this podcast once it drops. So that concludes our podcast for today. So please leave a review on any of the streaming platforms you happen to be listening to us on, or go to Charged Up Studios Facebook page and leave a review there. Charged Up Studio is the product of Marketatomy and Marketatomy Academy, the e-learning system designed specifically with the micro business owner in mind. For more information and go to register for any of our courses, go to Marketatomy, MARKETATOMY.academy. And until next week, where we'll bring you another exciting guest, and we'll kick off a new focus for our next month. This is Dana Olivo, your host, and go out and have a charged up week. You've been listening to Charged Up Studio Live, the podcast with you, the small business owner, in mind, with your host, Dana Olivo. Join us every Tuesday as we bring you valuable tips and insights into many of the topics you don't know about growing a successful business. Please leave us a review on any of the streaming platforms you are listening to, or visit us on the YouTube or Facebook page and leave a review or subscribe so you don't miss another episode. You can also support us through Patreon by visiting our website, chargedupstudio.live, and click on the Patreon link. Until next week, go out and have a charged up week.